So I did my undergrad in public relations, mostly because that was what Brenda did. So Brenda, if you remember, is my high school internship like mentor that was like, go to college. And then I basically did what she did. She's like, you're fairly extroverted, you're good with speaking, you're good at writing, go that direction and you'll figure it out. And so that's what I did.
Hey everyone, it's Tony Will. I am back with another fun episode of Women In, and I cannot wait for you to meet my next guest. But before you meet her, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women from all walks of life and the people who uplift them. Each episode features incredible voices from my world, sharing stories that spark inspiration, challenge the status quo, and remind us that empowering women empowers everyone. This is a bold, curious, uncensored space where disruption is welcome, forward thinking is encouraged, and change is the goal. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers, not just for us, but for the next generations. Whether our paths cross professionally or personally, these conversations matter. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of connection, growth, and the people who are shaping our world, and this woman is definitely one of them. ee-ven is a keynote speaker, best-selling author, and leadership coach who helps teams create what she calls a good ripple effect. With a background in healthcare operations and team leadership, she now works with companies like ESPN, SHRM, and Disney to teach leaders how to show up with presence, build trust fast, and shape stronger cultures. She's also the host of the Have a Good Ripple Effect podcast, and today she's here to bring insight, energy, and practical tools you won't want to miss. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it is such a pleasure. We're fellow Midwesterners, and we connected on that right out of the gate before we hit record. And so I'm really excited to get to know you better and about the Good Ripple Effect. But before we get to that, I want to know what brought you to the place you're in today. So I want you to take me as far back as you want to go. And where your career started, maybe weave in a little personal stories too, but take me back as far as you want, and all the way up to present day, and what made Lisa Lisa.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, that's like you give me lots of runway there. So I grew up in small town Iowa. And I now live in central Iowa in Des Moines, which is a bigger city. But my small town, if I rewind, I think my career started at R&R Cafe. It was a tiny little cafe on the main street, and I served breakfast and coffee to farmers and truckers and locals. And I think it's really where I learned how to interact with people and have a little fun, but also stand up for yourself. You know, you get that cranky customer every once in a while, and you still get it in adulthood. And so 14-year-old Lisa really did learn quite a few lessons from that job. I always say, like, I learned how to deal with people by being a waitress. And from there, I segued into college, and I always say one of the biggest ripple effects that I've experienced is I wasn't going to go to college because my family, we didn't have a ton of extra money. And it was kind of like one of those things where my dad was like, it's awfully expensive to pay for a piece of paper. Are you sure you want to do it? Like, I'm not sure. I did an internship in high school with a woman named Brenda, and Brenda asked me, where are you going to college? And I said, well, I don't think I'm going to go. It's pretty expensive. And she kind of looked at me and she goes, oh, but do you want to? And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. And she really changed the entire trajectory of my career. I ended up going to college because of her, helped me figure out how to apply, how to get, scholarships and grants and all of those things. Worked my way up the chain in healthcare and became an operational leader, which I loved. I loved kind of like the cranky employee that was like, I'm not doing it. And I always was like, can I just try on your glasses? Like, I just want to see what you see for a minute. Like, why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we getting our work done? Like, I just want to know. And so over the last couple of years, I've segued out of healthcare operations into keynote speaking and coaching. And so I'm now on your doorstep.
I love that. And very succinctly told.
Thank you.
I need to learn how to do that and be more succinct in my storytelling. I love it. A good keynote speaker there.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna takes one to know one, right?
Yeah.
I want to rewind back because I like to talk about first jobs, not on my podcast, but it just in real life. But we're going to talk about it now. So, do you remember how much you made at R&R Cafe? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think my hourly rate was like $3.50 plus tips. And for a high school student, because of the tips, I was actually walking away like pretty, like, man, I made a lot of money today, but my base pay was $3.50.
Well, I asked that because I keynote on one of the topics I keynote on is 10xing, and I always start with that. Like the mind 10x is a mindset, but people immediately think of like money, and I'm like, well, we could go there. But my first job, somewhat similar to yours, was Bob Evans.
Oh yes.
And I was a busser at Bob Evans, and I made $4.25 an hour in 1994. And I'm like, just think about that, and I use that as an example. Have you 10x'd your salary from that first job to now? And it's a great example how far we have come. To midlife, right? And we all know how to 10x. So anyways, you've come a long way. Now, I came home smelling like syrup and sausage and cigarettes because smoking was still allowed inside. Did you come home smelling like anything?
Yep, cigarettes were still legal up until like I graduated high school, so I smelled like smoke and grease.
Yep. That's our roots. This is where we started. And I get anyone listening to this, like, I think it's important for us to talk about like where we all started. And I bet you never in a million years did you think that young girl was going to be a keynote speaker, coach, working with Disney and ESPN and the like. So I want to talk more about healthcare, and you're an operational leader. And so tell me about that part of your career. Is that where you saw yourself when you graduated college? Were you like, I want to be in healthcare. I want to work in this space where people are taking care of other people. Like, was this a passion, or did you fall into it on accident?
Probably more accident than passion, but turned into sort of a passion as I got into it. So I did my undergrad in public relations, mostly because that was what Brenda did. So Brenda, if you remember, is my high school internship like mentor that was like, go to college. And then I basically did what she did. She's like, you're fairly extroverted, you're good with speaking, you're good at writing, go that direction and you'll figure it out. And so that's what I did. And then after college, my first job, I joined the workforce in the recession of '08. So you basically just took whatever job you could get. And so I worked at a staffing company. And the staffing company actually staffed physicians to work in emergency rooms. So that was my soiree into healthcare. My boyfriend, now husband, was also starting to work in the healthcare space. So it kind of became this like, oh, we have something to connect and to bond on. And then from the staffing company, I moved over into operations. And I just started to see the complexities and the almost like, what would you call it, like intertwined nature of life and health. And that's kind of where I think my passion for it became. And it's also like a city. Like I thought for a little while, like maybe I'll grow up and be a city manager, because you get to deal with all these different departments. And healthcare is kind of the same. If you've ever been to a large hospital, they've got laundry, they've got transportation, they've got supply chain, they've got operations, they've got, all these different things. And so I always have loved to really understand, like, why do you do what you do? And how do you connect to the other people that do what they do or don't do what they do?
Yeah. So and it sounds to me like you're a very curious person.
Yeah.
You were like, I loved what you said about, let me put your glasses on and see what you see. And so in the operation side, can you drill that down for me a little bit more? Like, what does that mean in a hospital? Like, what are you, HR? So what does that mean in healthcare?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually a clinic manager. So I had 5 locations and about 100 people across different locations in Wisconsin. And some of them were very urban. Some of them were more rural. And I was the manager in charge of all of the staff in the clinics. And so if you think about going to the doctor, I worked in a neurosciences clinic. So I would say, like, from the base of your spine to the tip of your head, that was kind of what we were interested in, or you would be coming to see us. And so we had surgeons, we had neurologists, kind of that whole span of things. And when you think about neurology, oftentimes you have other departments that have to get involved in that. And so I kind of love the interconnectivity of, well, we're neuro, but you might need cardiology, but you might need general practice. And like, how do we get you to the right spot if you need cardiology before you come to us? So I was in basically budget, staffing, engagement, you name it, for that team of people.
And so what did COVID look like for you?
So COVID, here's the fun part. I left healthcare 6 months before COVID. I ended up starting keynote speaking right before COVID, which was actually the biggest gift, but also, hardest challenge, because no one was doing events. And we had moved from Wisconsin back to Iowa. So we lived Iowa, then moved to Wisconsin for about 10 years and came back. And when we moved back, I thought, okay, this is my chance to see, do I like, training? Do I like keynote speaking? Do I like coaching? What do I like? And ultimately ended up, because of COVID, I started doing virtual coffees with people. And I just said, hey, I just want to connect during this time where a lot of us are at home, not all of us, but a lot of us. And I did about 250 virtual coffees during COVID, which expanded my network tenfold. And is probably one of the reasons why I was able to get into keynote speaking, was they were like, when we're back in the office, we should have you come talk to our team.
So what made you, I'm always fascinated by this conversation of corporate person in the workforce making the decision to go and hang their own shingle, keynote speak, coach, and have that chutzpah to do it. So what was the jumping off point for you to say, this is what I want to do? And you did it right before COVID, so the timing, like you said, double-edged sword, bittersweet, because nobody was coming together, so you had to pivot yet again. So what was why did you choose to do that?
It was probably a couple things. First, my husband, I laugh because he's kind of my biggest advocate. He's like, well, why don't you start your business? And I was like, what business? And he's like, the one where you teach people how to lead people. And I was like, oh, so I had never really thought about it. And then I think, as the more I did think about it, I started thinking about the leaders that I had that were excellent and the leaders that I had that were awful. And we all kind of have some of those horror stories of this leader did that. And I think I got in my mind that, well, if the world is going to have a ripple effect anyway, and those bad leaders are going to continue to have bad ripple effect, what if I could change that? What if I could actually put a little good ripple effect into leadership and how we think about teams? And so those, I think, were the kind of the thoughts rolling around in my head. And then I gave myself a sort of time frame of well, everything's an experiment. You're not going to know until you do it. So run a few experiments and see if you like it. And that's what I did.
And what type of experiments did you run? Were you just I'll speak on this day? Because for me, it's been interesting. I've spoke for, my university, my alma mater, or at a all women's group, or a sport. I work in pro sports, so pro sports, women in sports night or something. And then I'm like, oh, I really enjoy this. Is that the type of experimenting you're
So my gut said that I made a list of all the things that I thought leaders should know. I'm like, these are the things that I wish I would have known, that they should know, that they need to be thinking about. And then I narrowed it down to if I had to give a 30-minute presentation on one of them, which one do I feel most passionate about? And it was really this idea of team culture. I basically built a team culture that we protected at all costs. I would say to our team, when we interviewed new candidates, I would let the staff interview them. And I'm like, guys, we do not want to let anyone in that is going to pollute our waters, because we want to have good ripple effect. And so I was like, okay, I think it's team culture. What if I had to give, it was an experiment in my mind, right? If I had to give a 30-minute presentation, what would I say? And then I started mapping that out. And once I had a presentation that I thought was worth anyone's time, I then reached out to a number of different friends in operations, HR, healthcare, and I just said, hey, would you be willing to let me do a free 30-minute lunch and learn for your team? And the only asks is that you take a picture at the back of the room, and I can give them a sheet of paper that says, what was your most memorable moment and what are you going to do different after today? And so I ran that. I did it 10 times, and I started to look at like what people were resonating with and did I like doing it? They started to ask me to come again. So I was like, okay, that's a sign. And so that's kind of the experiments that I ran of just being sort of methodical, but also a little bit like, well, let's just try it and see. And I've just kind of slowly been a little choo-choo train chugging along ever since.
It's a good analogy because it is very...
It's a chug.
It is like a chug. It's a chug. So you say team culture's one. So I got two... I've been writing down questions because
excellent. Okay,
I too am a curious person. So how do you lead people? Like that was part of what you're building. Like, I need to teach people how to lead people. And I completely agree with you. There is a leadership gap out there. And team culture is the first topic you talked about. 100% agree. And what else is on your list? I'm dying to know.
Yeah. So I have a keynote around burnout. So thinking about how do we think about burnout? How do we address burnout? Is it me? Is it the system that I'm working in? Like, what does burnout look like? And then the third topic, which over time I've had probably 10 to 20 topics, trust and, all sorts of different ones. But the third one is, and I actually wrote the book called Joy is My Job, and it's on Amazon if you want to grab it. And then I also have a workbook. And the reason why I tell you about those is because I'm really proud of this experiment. Because it started, I'm going to go off kind of on a tangent for just a minute and then come back. But so my husband and I were burnt out, and I was still working in healthcare. So was he. He's still in healthcare. And I looked at him one night and I said, I am so tired. And I am tired of being tired. And I'm tired of looking at my calendar and seeing all the things that I have to do. And I said, I just want to look at my calendar and see something, I don't know, something that I enjoy. And I said, we put everything on this calendar, all of our responsibilities. Why can't we put something else? And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know. I just think that if we wait for joy to find us, for it to be the right moment, for our kids to sleep through the night, for us to buy that house, for it to be Q2 when this project is complete, like if we wait and wait and wait and wait, we're going to wait forever. And I said, I jokingly said, I just want to make joy my job. Like, it's my new job. And he laughed at me and he goes, joy is your new job. And I said, yes. And he's like, okay, how do you do it? And I was like, I have no idea. But I bought a whiteboard at Home Depot. We ended up hanging it in our bedroom and started as an experiment. We made a list of the things that bring us joy, that we used to do, want to do, could do. It was like, we haven't gone on a walk in a long time. We haven't, played music in a long time. We just started making this list, and ultimately that list moved from the whiteboard to a calendar, and now we measure our joy like a bank account. So it's a KPI in our family. And then I had enough people say, like, I want to make joy my job, and I want a joy calendar. And I said, well, you should get one. And so I wrote the book, and I have now spoken to hundreds of different organizations and women's groups about this idea that you've got to make joy your job. So it started as this little experiment in my personal life, flipped to my professional life, and then now I get paid to speak about it.
Really cool. And becoming an author is no small task. So congratulations on that. When did you publish the book?
It was back in, what would it have been, 2024. October of 2024. So it's been just a couple of years.
So talk about that. Did you self-publish, hybrid, or traditional?
I did self-publishing, on Amazon, because I didn't have a ton of money to spend, which a lot of us are like, I don't have a ton. And that was really the only reason why I did self-publishing. There are lots of ways to do it. Mm-hmm. And I did hire a book coach who was really more my accountability buddy. So she checked in with me every 2 weeks and just was like, how are we doing? I actually didn't write my book. I spoke it because I was like, every 2 weeks we would meet and she's like, how much have you gotten done? And I'm like, not a lot. She's like, why don't you speak it? So I literally spoke it into my phone, and then I had pretty much, 1 million pages of spoken word, and then we went back and we edited that.
Wow. I love talking about the book writing process because it's different for everyone. I'm on the cusp of my book being published on August 11th. And so it's very exciting, and I love, one, I love books. Two, I love interviewing authors, and I just respect just the book writing process, and now it's so much more available to people to write, and there's no right or wrong way to publish.
No.
Just, for anyone who commits to it and births a book out to this world, I'm like, I want to hear all about it, because it's hard work. It's not easy.
Hard.
And it is. But I like looking back now at almost 2 years post publishing, was it worth it?
Oh yeah, and I'm actually almost done with my second one. And it's almost like, I don't know if you've ever done something where you do it and then you're like, oh, I want to do it. If I could do it over, like this is what I would have done. It's kind of like I'm getting my do-over. And then the second book's really more about team culture, because again, the joy and team culture are my biggest passions. And so it's a very different topic, but now I've gotten a lot more efficient, and I think the first book you just put out scared. And then after, you know what I mean? You're just like, okay, I'm going to shove this into the world. Here it goes. And after you shove it out there and you get people who love it, people who could care less, right? Like people who are like, well, it's fine. And then you realize like, okay, I'm still okay. I'm standing, like I'm good. Then you're kind of like, oh, well, now that fear is kind of sloughed off. Like, let's go.
I just heard this recently, and I don't know that I believe it. I'm just going to say it here because someone told me, or I heard it spoken, that there's more credibility for an author, the title author or identity author, than a doctor.
Yeah. If you're in particular industries, I would say that might ring true, in the sense of I know that I've gotten speaking gigs because I'm an author.
Okay.
So it's interesting. Like, I don't know that it's like, I don't know if it's more than a doctor, but it certainly is helpful to build credibility and for people to take you serious about the topic. It's like, if you spend enough time to birth a book about that topic, in theory, right, you must know what you're talking about. Now, jury's still out on that for many, but you never know.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
So are you, for your second book, when do you expect it to come out, and are you self-publishing again?
Yeah, I'm going to self-publish again. And then I'm guessing end of summer, like getting there. Don't have the exact date. In my mind, it's always like get it on paper and then decide the date. And we're getting close. So I'm like, yeah.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks,
and
you too.
How does it feel the second time around? Does it feel different?
Yeah, it feels less pressure. I feel like that first one, you're like, it's gotta be perfect. And then even after it's done, you look back and you think like, oh, I wish I would have added this or talked about that or didn't talk about this. And so now I'm kind of like, just get a first version done, and that it'll be an evolution. And then in self-publishing, which probably in traditional publishing as well, but I can't remember if Amazon, if it's like 10 or 20% or something different. Like if I wanted to go back and re-release it and I wanted to add some things, you can. So I'm like, oh, well, if I want to make it better, I can.
Yeah, exactly. It's never really done unless you move on to the next and want it to be. I'm going down this rabbit hole with you because it is funny.
I love it.
My book's not even out yet, but I've got advanced copies in people's hands.
You're so close.
But it's funny because people are like, it's sitting in my pile of yet to be read. And I'm like, sitting. Like, or someone's like, I haven't started yet. I'm like, I mailed it to you. Like, I mailed this to you in March. It's almost June. It's so funny though, like how, and it's not like I haven't let a book sit around and,
yeah, right. It's funny how it's like, it's our baby, right? Like, don't you love my baby?
Isn't it the most beautiful baby ever? And then you look back at your firstborn's baby picture, and you're like,
you're kind of like, oh, you look like a raisin. What's up with that?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to know, you mentioned this earlier, like leader horror stories. What's one of your horror stories that you experienced?
Yeah.
With someone leading you?
Probably the one that resonates the most is I had a leader not tell the whole truth about something. And then I got in the crosshairs of it. And afterwards, I like went to my leader and I was like, "Hi, you didn't tell the truth on that." And that leader just kind of looked at me and he's like, "Sometimes that's the way it goes." And I remember just like being stunned. You know, I was probably late 20s, early 30. Didn't really know how to respond. And I just remember thinking, I will never do that. I will never do that. Like, it's one thing, you know, to kind of like, what would you call it? Like, slightly embellish. It's another thing to like blatantly not tell the truth. And I was like, okay. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I often say that I've had I've had a handful of just shitty leaders. And it's taught me a lot about how I will not be as a leader. And I appreciate those. I will not be this. I will not be an asshole. I will not be, like, I will not lie. I will not, I don't know. There's just a lot of things that I won't do, but it was from, I will not sexually harass my employees. Like, things that I've gone through. And it's just a great teacher once you're on the other side of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard. So what do you say to those people who are in it and they're like, I love what you're saying, ladies, but what do I do if I'm in it right now?
Yeah, I would say for me, I ultimately ended up switching teams. You know, like I decided that I did not want to work for that person. It took me a while because I needed to find a new spot and I really wanted to find a job that I liked and that I was leaving a team that I managed that I loved. Like when I told them I was leaving, half of us cried. And I'm not really a crier, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like crying that we're not going to get to work every day. And so I would say like find the pivot, whether it's a different position or just a different mindset. And, you know, a couple years after that, when I look back on it and I'm like, it was hard then, but I knew I needed to pivot and it just takes time. And I think about how that person, like, no one will ever know, right? Like, I didn't get to scream to the heavens, like, do you know that they didn't tell the truth? But at the same time, I'm like, but I know. And that, like, when I go back on that story, I'm like, I know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell me, and that must connect in some way, shape, or form to have a good ripple effect. Why that title and those words? What does it mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I used it originally in the context of the team. It was kind of like our team mantra. I would say to the team, it's our job to have good ripple effect, and everything you say and do is a ripple. Happy or crappy, your choice. And it's contagious. And so it kind of became this almost campaign slogan / team mantra / the first time I ever heard someone say it to someone else. Like I was coming around a corner and there were two people standing there and one of them said to the other, dude, that's not good ripple effect, is it? And I like kind of like was literally like, I did it. I infiltrated their mind and our culture for what we need to see. And that was like where if you're a leader, I always say like come up with a statement of what you want to see. And whatever that statement is, say it all day, every day. To where people are like, we know, good ripple effect, we know. And I'm like, that's right, we know. That's right.
I love it. My team will say, I have 6 leadership pillars and they're constantly like spitting them back out. And I love it. Is true because I'm like, well, you guys are listening to the leadership pillars. You're going to the experts. You're having fun. You're all the things that are what the culture that I work really hard to build. So I didn't stop to think about it in the way that you're framing that. And so, that's really cool. You did infiltrate the culture and it's working. I love looking at it through that lens. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned Brenda, your book coach. I want to know, including these women that you've talked about, who are the women, Lisa, that have helped you become that woman that is here with me today?
Yeah, I think about them from a professional standpoint maybe first. And there were a couple of female leaders who, when I was a manager and they were directors and VPs, and like I always say, like if you're climbing a mountain, they were like farther up the mountain. And it was almost like they dropped a rope and they're like, get up here. And they became my hey, do you have a minute? I've got this situation. I need some help. They became the like, hey, Lisa, have you thought about this position or role? I think you'd be really good. They became sort of that, like, I see you. Like, I see you. Girl, I see you. And I think of those, there were like 3 or 4 of them, Lisa, Joan, Marie, like they were just kind of pulling me up, if that makes sense. And I think in my personal life, I heard about this concept recently called lids or launchers, that we're either like putting lids on each other or we're launching each other, like launching into the sky. And I think about these women of like in my personal life who are launching me. And there's a few that when I said, I'm going to go be a keynote speaker, they kind of were like, well, get going. Like, get after it. And they were just always seeing what was possible and saying like, oh yeah, of course. Now I've had a couple of friends that have kind of been like, oh really? Like, huh. I just don't see you as that. And you know, they were kind of a little bit more of the lids, like kind of holding me in and maybe because of their own stories. But I just think about the personal like connections in my life that are like, oh, they launch you. Whether it's like helping or just speaking to you in a way that's like, we know. We knew long before you knew that you were gonna like succeed and get after it.
Yeah, what a great, I wrote it down, lids or launchers. I'm always like, hey ladies, get in the elevator, we're going up together.
Yes.
Again, launcher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly why I started this podcast. It's for that reason, to lift women up. So
yeah.
I love that you have that. And you've talked about Brenda quite a bit. I want to know, are you still in touch with Brenda?
You know, I laugh because I haven't talked to her in many years, but I am connected on social, and it's fun that, you know, I'll see her like a post every now and again, and I'm like, you know, she's still there. And I've told her the story of just like, you don't know the ripple effect that you've had. Like, you just don't. And I, you know, sometimes if people are like, I just don't know if I'm helping people, I'm like, you are. You are. It may be years from now that they turn to you and say, like, did you know when you said that you thought I could do it and then I went and did it? It was because of you. Like, there are stories. There are.
Yes. And it's so nice when we get to hear them once in a while, because you really have no idea until someone
Right.
says, hey, you said this. And I, you know, once in a blue moon, someone will say that to me, and I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I needed to hear that today. So anyone on the personal side of your life that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I would think about, you know, I've got a really strong group of girl entrepreneurs that have kind of moved into that friend category of just people that I can call when I need a break from work. And I've got some good friends in my like college friend group that they just kind of allow space for whatever I need outside of work. And I think that that's a gift because we don't all live close together, but I can call them when I'm walking and be like, hi, I don't know what I need. And they're like, oh, good, because I was hoping to talk to you anyway.
It's perfect. Yeah. And we all
Yeah.
need that. And, you know, I have 2 of my closest friends. One's in California and one's in Nova Scotia in Canada. And the 3 of us communicate on Marco Polo. And we are rarely in the same city together, but we've spent 5.5, almost 6 years talking that way almost every day.
Yeah,
So
which is amazing.
There's different definitions
Yeah.
of friendship. It doesn't have to be in person all the time. So
Absolutely.
So Lisa, tell me, like, so the podcast was born out of my pro sports life because I'm in a very male-dominated industry as a GM of a men's professional hockey team, and so I'm always looking for ways to lift women up. And what happened was I was coming back from a conference, and I'm like, oh, I want to tell more stories about women in sports, and then I'm like, no, we're more than our occupation. So I kicked out the word sports, and then I wanted to have men on the podcast too, because I'm like, there are important women in men's lives. Men came from women. The word men is in women. So I'm going to, right? So I kick out, I was like, well, I'll just put dots there. Women in ... So the women that come on the podcast can fill in those dots for themselves. So if you were to fill those in, women in what for you, Lisa?
Ooh, I would say probably women in life. A part of me wants to be like joy is your job. You only get one. So I would say, like, I am advocating for the person that maybe just wants a little bit more joy, or maybe who has a hell of a lot of joy and is just like, let's keep this going. Like that for me. I've got women who are retired who are doing joy calendars and creating joy lists, and I've got women in business who are doing the same. So I think it's, those women in life people that are just looking for maybe it not to be so dreary, and they're kind of like saying to themselves, like, we only get one. I could find 10-15 minutes for joy. Like, I could look at my calendar and I could say, my good friend, actually, Becca, and I do this thing where she'll call me and she'll be like, do you got 15? And I'm like, I got 15. Where are you? And she's like, hey, I'm over, over here on this side of town. I'll be over in 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, great. And I literally meet her in the driveway with like a Fresca or a LaCroix. She kicks open her van door. I hand her the Fresca, and we literally talk for 15 minutes. We're both busy moms, busy professionals, busy lives. And then we literally toast, and I'm like, all right, let's get back to it. I shut her van door and I wave and I'm like, bye. And I think about how like those 15 minutes are some of my favorite 15 minutes of, my every couple of weeks. And so I think I'm for those people who just say, like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to sneak it in and I'm going to have a hell of a time doing it.
What a great example, by the way, of like, it doesn't have to be carved out and
Nope.
15 texts back and forth, figuring out the right time. Ah, what a great example. I love that. Women in life with an example to boot. Okay, what are you learning about right now, Lisa? What is, whether you're reading a book or listening to a podcast or watching a documentary, what are you learning about?
Probably, okay, two things. So I just 3 weeks ago started my PhD. And I laugh because I haven't been in school for like 17 years. And so, holy smokes, we've already had a group project and all the things. And so I'm taking the class called Research Methods. So I'm learning how to do research, which is slightly boring, but I'm making it happen. And then I would say the other one, I'm listening to a book called Incognito by David Eagleman. And it's all about brain science. So just thinking about the brain and how we think about things. I'm just a couple minutes into it, like probably chapter 1 or chapter 2. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm learning about at this very moment.
What made you decide to get your PhD?
A couple of things. I'm constantly wanting to learn about leadership. So it's an organizational leadership PhD. And so I was like, how do I build this in so that it's structured and it's kind of like my accountability buddy? Because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I want to learn about that. And then I could do 50,000 other things. And I was like, well, if I take a class in it and I'm paying money and there's grades, like that's a great accountability buddy. And then I think the other reason is, I'm fairly youthful in my nature and I look really young, though I'm 40. And people at events often will say to me, you're a leadership expert, huh? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, well, what does it take to be a leadership expert? And I'm like, I don't know. How about thousands and thousands of hours leading teams and teaching workshops and keynote speaking? And so I think it's kind of twofold. It's like I want to learn it, but I want it to be like, you know what? Just put DR in front of my name, and then that should speak for itself.
I know. Yeah, well, good for you. I interview a lot of PhDs. I've had a good fair share on women, and I always love to give accolades to that because I keep saying this. I'm going to look it up. The percentage of women in the U.S. that have their PhD, it's got to be in the single digits. So and you're going to be one of them. So good for you.
Yeah, thank you. Talk to me in like 6 months or like a year and see how we're doing, because it's like, I laugh. I've been reading all the, assigned readings and doing all the things, but so far I love it.
Yeah, and how long's the program? How long is it going to take you?
You can go as fast as or as slow as you want. I think it'll probably take me like between 2 and 3 years. I'm taking like one class at a time to start, and then we'll kind of see where it lands, but I actually think one class at a time is good, especially with traveling for speaking and being a mom and all the things.
Yeah, how do you balance all that? What does that look like for you?
So I quit thinking about life like that. It doesn't, like, it's a fun thought, right? And so I think of it more like time blocking, and I just kind of am like, well, if I wanted to do this thing, where would it go on my calendar? And then I start kind of like looking, and I'm like, okay, it could maybe go there, or it might not. And then if something doesn't fit, I just make it on a list and I will do it later. And that has relieved so much pressure of like, I don't know that striving for balance is necessarily the goal.
No, I think work-life balance is bullshit.
Me too.
It's just not, I don't subscribe to it. And I think it's seasonal, whether it's the time of year or the time of life.
Yes.
And, you know, I think it's bullshit. So there
Yeah,
you go.
I agree. Amen. Cheers to that.
You said it much nicer, which is I time block. Yep, me too.
We can only get so many things done, and it's fine.
Exactly. Okay, fun question. You travel a lot for speaking and coaching workshops. So I need to know, I believe there are two types of people in this world.
Okay.
There are people and this is just flying. Are you a carry-on person only, or do you check luggage?
Ooh, so for speaking, carry on only. You can never put anything in a checked bag because you might not get it. But if I'm going with my family, I might do a checked bag and like throw in pointless, useless, like huge floaties that no one needs, but we do. And like bags of like candy and goodies that no one needs, but we do. And so usually like my checked bag shows up and it's full of like useless joy type of things that my husband just laughs and is like, why did you bring 3 coffee cans and garden shovels? And I'm like, well, the kids need to dig at the beach, duh. So I don't know if I answered that right, but that's kind of what we do.
Hey, listen, there's no right or wrong answer. I just noticed, I posted it up on LinkedIn this week too, because I have this weird aversion of checking a bag for anything. I could be going overseas for 2 weeks. I could be traveling for business. I refuse to check a bag. Now, I experimented, and I did it once this year, and everything worked out fine, and I didn't die. But
you didn't die.
I'm so ridiculous. I'm like, I need to start asking people this question on my podcast. So
you do. Actually, that's a great question because I feel like you get so many fun and funny answers.
I got another one for you. Let's do another one.
Okay.
So we're going to go to laundry now. Are you the type of person that separates lights and darks, or do you throw it all in together?
So here, this is funny because I tell a story in my Joy keynote about socks and how when my husband and I got married and we did our laundry for the first couple of times, I like took the socks out of the dryer, I threw them in a pile, and he says to me like, we're going to match our socks, right? Like put one sock inside of the other sock. And I looked at him like, what? I was like, my dad worked at a car dealership. My mom was a hotel housekeeper. I never had like fancy socks, so they were all white, and so I had never matched a sock in my entire life. And I kind of looked at him like, no, we're not. And it's funny because I have this concept called crappy to happy, and how you do a lot of unglamorous things, and sometimes you got to make them a little happy either before, during, or after. And so my kids know matching socks is a sock party because my husband likes to separate things and match things, and I don't. But sometimes we have to do it, so we do.
Here's a fun little sock story too. I had someone tell me that, and I don't know where it was, but someone's family just throws all the socks, like they do laundry, all the socks go in a sock basket. And people just pull socks out. It doesn't matter whose socks are whose, and the family shares the basket of socks. And
that I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, what's your first instinct when you hear that?
Well, I just think about how my son, I'm always telling him, please don't walk on the driveway with your white socks. Like, please don't do that. So his are gross. No.
Yeah. My feet, I don't want my feet in your feet socks.
In your feet socks.
Anyway, this is what these bizarre questions bring up.
Right.
So.
Oh, I love it. Have you ever heard of law of similarity?
No.
It's where we like people who are like us. And so if you can find something that you're similar to them on, you end up having a better connection. And I feel like your questions lead people right into law of similarity of like, oh, I can relate on that. And oh, me too. Or like, I know somebody. So I just want to give you a huge shout out as a host because you don't often hear people like coming from that angle. So well done.
Thank you. I truly enjoy podcasting, and I got to tell you, it is one, and I didn't start the podcast for this, but it is another version of networking, and I've met the coolest people, and so, and you're one of them now.
Cheers to that.
So, Lisa, where can people connect with you? They want to buy the book, they want to look at your keynote speaker reel, I don't know, all the things. Where can they find you?
All the things. They can find me at lisaeven.com, so even like Steven. And then I am on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm now pushing some things out to TikTok and YouTube, but just getting started on that. So you can find me there as well.
Awesome. Well, good luck on the second book. I'm definitely going to be looking, getting your book, Joy is My Job. I can't wait to check it out. I think what a great concept, and congratulations to you for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
And good luck on that PhD. I know you're going to nail it.
Right, I'm pushing my nerdy glasses up right here.
Yep. Me too. All right, everyone. I am not hard to find. If you want to connect with me, the hockey side of my life is at kwings.com. And then every other thing I'm working on, whether it's my coaching business, the podcast, Empower Her 2027, and then the biggest thing, my book, Rebellious Success, comes out August 11th. You can pre-order now at tonywill.com, and I'm on all social media platforms as well. And until next time.